everyone. We have lots of people populating and joining us on the broadcast. Welcome. Very glad to have you all. Look forward to a great discussion. DSA Engage continues. Welcome to our latest DSCF Insights webinar series, Revolutionizing Sales, Understanding the Hype and Reality of Generative AI. I am Gary M. Huggins. Emphasize the M here because for the purposes of this discussion, maybe you can call me Chat GMH. I guess the good thing about AI humor, maybe that gets funnier as it goes along too, who knows. But anyway, welcome. We're really glad to have you. And before we get started, I would love to talk to you guys about some related things coming up, things related to our discussion, certainly. If you're not signed up to join us in Scottsdale, Arizona for DSA Engage, please do. It's going to be a great event, and we'd love to have you with your direct selling colleagues and our academic colleagues and all the rest that will be there. Sign up, join. Part of that event is going to be a celebration of DSEF's 50th anniversary, brought to you by our friends at Gen Con Innovation as our presenting sponsors, and music by the Free Radicals, the great band featuring Kevin Guest, DSA chairman, and USANA chairman. So fantastic night. Sign up, consider sponsorship. It's a great way to support your foundation. It's a great way to see some of your colleagues in rock star mode as they get up and sing with the band, and fantastic band, the Free Radicals. So please join us for a great night there. Also, during DSA Engage, we're going to have some AI sales and AI operations workshops that are going to feature Dr. Michael Rodriguez, who's with us today, and Dr. Stephanie Boyer, who I think a lot of you know well. So some great discussions to be had there, and also an important panel discussion about sort of the future of the industry in articulating a credible vision for the future that will feature some direct selling executives, as well as a couple of DSCF fellows, Dr. Kent Grayson and Dr. Ann Coghlan from Northwestern University. So a lot to talk about there, and please join us. Go to the DSA website and get more information. For today, as we have this discussion about AI and how we can take advantage of the benefits and opportunities that provides, and also mitigate some of the potential risks of generative AI. We're really happy to have 3 DSCF fellows with us today to bring us insights from research and practice on the uses and challenges of AI tools in sales, as well as some specific thoughts about how these tools might be best used to enhance the direct selling channel. So really excited to have the 3 with us. Just to introduce our panel briefly, please learn more about them as we go. But Dr. Maria Petrescu is an assistant professor of marketing at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Research interests include marketing analytics, artificial intelligence in business, and digital communication deception. She's also co-editor of the Journal of Marketing Analytics. Dr. Brooke Reevey is Fulbright Scholar and Associate Professor of Marketing at Dominican University. She's the author of the textbook Digital Marketing Foundations and Strategy, and Brooke's academic work focuses on the intersection of digital marketing, marketing research, and data democratization. And finally, Dr. Michael Rodriguez is Associate Professor of Marketing at Campbell University, where he teaches business analytics, sales, and digital marketing. And for the past decade, Dr. Rodriguez has helped organizations improve their sales process and achieve business goals by leveraging technology in the form of CRM, social and mobile solutions. Mike has also coached over 1,000 sales professionals in B2B complex sales and written over 20 articles focused on the impact of technology and its impact on sales performance. So really excited to have these 3 experts, these 3 fellows with us today. And before I hand it off to Dr. Rodriguez to get us started, I want to encourage all of you, as you're listening to the presentation, think about the business challenges in front of you. Think about the problems you're trying to solve and how AI might be helpful in solving those problems, addressing those problems. Think about the things that worry you perhaps about AI as they're presenting, because we want to make sure that this is an interactive discussion. We want to hear from you what your challenges are so that we can continue the discussion today, certainly, but beyond today. And when we're together in Scottsdale for DSA Engage and as we continue through the year to work together. So with that introduction, let me hand it off to Mike. Please take us away.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here. We're definitely in exciting times here. And so just to start and level set, you know, generative AI is not something that's going to fix everything. So just to kind of get that mindset that generative AI, you have to start with a problem statement, a question of what a business problem, as Gary had indicated, of what you're trying to solve. But today we're going to talk in general of, okay, what is really generative AI? I'm going to kind of talk about how we got here, right? Where was that? It didn't just show up. There's an evolution to that. Talk about predictive analytics, how it could impact certain areas of the business. So start thinking about, okay, where can generative AI help our business, whether it's forecasting, customer segmentation, personalization, right? And you think about, okay, what are the things that we're spending more time on that maybe are non-selling activities? And again, looking at, you know, generative AI, of how it helps sales funnel optimization, how to help our sales teams perform better with one another. But more importantly, it also starts with data. So again, it's, you know, when I did implementation of CRM, we all talked about garbage in, garbage out. It always starts with data quality and availability. Also identifying and addressing skills and knowledge gaps. So again, this isn't a magic wand. You know, you just can't implement a technology if your employees are now, one, and able to kind of embrace that technology, right? Understand the perceived use and ease of use, but also understanding how do you train those people on your employees, which again, your employees are your biggest and best asset, right? Let's not forget that. There's no technology in the world that's going to replace that. And that goes along with fostering a culture of collaboration, right? I think there's a lot of talk out there that AI is scary. It's going to replace me. And there are some certain places where it is replacing certain jobs, whether it's in the back office, HR, or accounting. But it's really important that if we can teach those that AI is going to help us do our job and make us more productive, we can create a culture there. We also talk about, okay, now that we have this technology in place, what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators, to help us measure and monitor that performance moving forward? And then we'll finish up with a Q&A, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of help and grow this conversation. You know, I believe we have about an hour here. After this hour, I'm sure things might have changed after this conversation, so we have to continue to learn and grow with it. So we just go to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to kind of paint the picture here of, okay, how did we get here? Because there's a lot of confusion of, okay, what's the difference between generative AI, you know, machine learning, deep learning, aren't they all the same thing? And they are, but and they all kind of grew in a really fast pace. So the evolution of it, and we don't even know the dates of these, right? It's basically, we started out with advanced analytics, right? And you can't see in the bottom, but there's some examples of that. And basically, there's the step instructions that are coded by human developers. There's a lot of manual labor that come into that, right? You're taking data, right? You're building models, right? And then you're analyzing that data, right? Both prescriptive and predictive. And then became the machine learning, where now those models are acting on their own and basically digesting it and coming up with answers, right? So an example of machine learning is, your GPS, right? It automatically figures out, the best route to get to your house or destination, or the music that you want. Or if you're a Netflix subscriber, which I binge quite often, it tells you this is the movie that I want to see or the series that I want to see. And then we took a deeper learning, right? Which is the exact definition of machine learning, in which basically it's unsupervised learning, where now this data starts to act like humans, right? Which is kind of gets a little bit scary, right? Image recognition, autonomous driving. This is where we start to see where the technology starts to almost replace the human being, but it needs some guidance. And the next one, which is basically this is the exciting, the sexy part of what we're talking about, is foundational models. Basically, what this means is that we're taking machine and deep learning and taking the training away from that, because the training is basically takes a while. Now you look at tools such as DALL-E and ChatGPT. I don't know if anyone is familiar with DALL-E. It is a fantastic tool to kind of play around with. I've actually created my own artwork. So DALL-E is basically an image tool that you can basically put anything in there, right? So you can put Mike Rodriguez dressed in a clown suit, flying to the moon in a scooter, and it will paint that picture for you. So it is actually pretty kind of cool. And I really started, if you think about a tool such as DALL-E, really kind of changing how artwork is being done. Again, one example of that, right? And you look at ChatGPT, again, and there's a lot of arguments. Is this a bad thing? Are we plagiarizing? This is what builds that foundational models. It's okay, how can we utilize tools like generative AI, right? Which is a foundational model. What that mean by that is, instead of machine learning, deep learning is a training model, ChatGPT takes away the training. It's basically you just show up and know how to do something, right? That's the foundational model. And so that hopefully that makes sense and kind of explain some of those, that different evolution of how we got here. Next slide. All right. So now we kind of talk about, you know, what Gary presented is, okay, this sounds great. I want to use it. And I've worked with a lot of companies like, we need to invest in ChatGPT. We need to utilize generative AI. And the thing is, you have to start with a specific business case, right? And so I just came up with a few here. And I don't know if everyone can see the screen here, but marketing, sales, customer service, retail and commerce, those are the types of things that we're kind of looking at here. And so what I mean by that is, what question are you trying to solve for, right? I always have the analogy of, the doctor, right? The doctor's always saying, what's wrong with you? We don't go to the doctor when we don't have a problem. We have a problem, we have an answer, right? So that's what we're here to do. And basically, for instance, for marketing, will your customers open up the email, right? What is the conversion level of that? Will that lead convert, right? A sales. What does the customer require? How can we increase CSAT scores, right? And then again, from e-commerce, what do customers usually buy, right? And what are some recommendations that we make? Now, a lot of things too is that, that's really good about this is that on every single case here, they can come up with what's called NBA, which is next best action. That's what generative AI can do for these different things. But again, we have to come up with a problem statement that we're trying to create here. And so I just want to kind of present that very quickly to really understand that generative AI is not a magic wand that's going to fix all our problems. We have to understand what that problem is. Next, I'm going to pass it on to Brooke to kind of dig deep on what generative AI is and kind of talk about some use cases here as well.
Super, thanks. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so when we start thinking about generative AI, I know that there are a million different types of terms that are out there. I think what makes generative AI different, at least for this week and for this hour, is the fact that it doesn't require a training set. It's something that's already there and it kind of knows what it's doing. So one of the things that we can tell with generative AI is that there's it can do all of the things. So this is the ChatGPT that you're thinking of. These are the different types of software out there that can write emails for you and send text messages to consumers. And the important part about this, and particularly this is in relation to your downlines, which you generally don't have all that much control over, is that it can help you send out messages that are integrated for everybody from your company all the way down. So for instance, we can so when, for instance, one of the things that we know that we can do within generative AI is that we can ask, for example, ChatGPT, we can say, like, pretend that you are a middle-aged lady in the suburbs who is, write an email to her. We can have those things that come about. And so that's one of the nice things that's happening with generative AI is that it can write it in that tone. And it already knows, it's pre-programmed because all the information has been coming from the internet to get an idea. Now, that being said, it does come up pretty stereotypical. So there are some things that are a little wonky with that. And if we can skip to the slide that says scaling your business via text. Great. So one of the things that we can do when we're scaling our business via text is, this is something that that I've been seeing that's been on the rise, at least for the past 6 months, and is, it's definitely where we're going. So one of the things that we know about younger consumers is that they want the personalization. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that whenever something is personalized, any kind of email, any kind of text message, the consumers like that. They think to themselves, like, I spent all this money with you. I know you guys have computers. You should know what I want. And one of the things that can happen then is that by being able to scale your business via text, you can do something where you may have just been one person, and now all of a sudden, instead of just spending all day long conversing with just a couple people, you can talk to 500, 1,000 different people via AI. So Text-backed AI is a company that's out there. They're one of the better ones. They can do a lot of different types of autoresponders. They can follow along with customer journeys of like, hey, you left something in your cart. We haven't seen you in a while. There's all different types of triggers that you can set up that will get in touch with them via text message as opposed to an email. If we want to go to the next slide. So this is an example of something that's going on in the coaching / personal training industry. This is a company called Verb. If you follow them on Instagram, they're Get Verb. But one of the things that happens, and one of the things that makes this be interesting and why it's also beyond text messaging, is that the information that comes back and forth gets summarized and sent to the personal trainer. So for instance, one of the things that it can do is it can look at if their consumer is taking a picture of all the food they're eating, they can send it back to the trainer through the AI, and the AI can say, make recommendations of like, the little skimpy on the protein, you might need to eat a little bit more, or we need to do a little bit better about the veggies. And it's able to scan through pictures. And so that's one of the things that makes AI be so different, is that it can understand and react to unstructured data very quickly. Versus, and when we start going into scaling events, then that's one of the things that also makes it be pretty interesting. One other thing I forgot to mention is that if you're like me and your Zoom bar kind of goes away or it's like invisible at times, if you scroll down to the base, you'll see that we have a Q&A section, and then we also have chat. So if you set in, while we're talking, if you add in the Q&A questions, we can get to them at the end. We do have some time that's set up at the very end for it, and we'll get those answers. And we'll be able to answer them, as we can. But this way, that way we can have more of a two-way conversation coming and going. But if anything, if you have any questions about these types of examples or other things of how it can be scaled out, this is one of the things that we know right now. It's that from a scaling perspective, how things are able to change. It's not so much with social media just yet, but this is more about like controlling all of your customers. And instead of having to spend, hours upon hours responding to text messages, AI can do it for you. Okay, next slide. So the other thing we have going on too is predictive analytics and insights. There's a lot of stuff that's going on from an insights perspective, where we've just been kind of gathering and hoarding data for a long time and leaving it in our databases to be dealt with at some point. One of the things that what AI can do is it can go through and look through all that unstructured data and make sense of it. It can also reduce the cost, because instead of having a whole team of analytics folks going through and changing things, cleaning up the data and changing things that that were rows into columns and all that type of stuff, they can change it around very easily. The machine can figure out what's going on, and it can understand through a two-way conversation of what you are looking for it to do. There's also some degree of increased accuracy because of the fact that it has a wider range of forecasting methods that that it understands and is programmed into it. You don't necessarily have to wait for somebody to go get their master's degree to be able to understand how to do some different types of forecasting models. Okay, next slide. So this is an example of a company that I've worked with quite a bit. They're called Yabble. So Yabble is an insights company. They're based out of New Zealand, but they have an office in Santa Monica. And what they do is they were early adopters and early partners with OpenAI. So they have a contract. They have OpenAI's API. So I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of acronyms around. But they have basically like the backdoor database relationship with OpenAI. But the other thing too that they have that's different about many other AI companies is that they have a walled garden. So all of the information you send to Yabble is like protected. It doesn't go out into all of OpenAI. It's only just used for whatever your use case is. And so what they do is if you have, let's say, a bunch of customer reviews, they're going to go through, their dashboard goes through and shows you the sentiment of what people are saying. The other things that it does too is, it's opposed to, like, there's not a confirmation bias that's added into it. A lot of times insights professionals will be kind of looking for something, or an executive sometimes is looking for something, and that's what they see repeatedly. The AI will be able to create a dashboard that shows you more of the sentiment of customers are happy, customers like this, customers don't like that. This also helps with new product development, and it lets you identify your blue ocean of an area where customers are saying something, but it doesn't exist. And so this is something that is pretty exciting. And they're not there yet, but they will be soon, where they're able to look through what influencers are saying, the different types of videos that they are saying, and when they're doing unboxing videos, and be able to measure all that. Like right now, Google has that with, I think it's called Google Vision or Google Lens. And it's not super integrated, it's really expensive, but Yabble and OpenAI will be able to do that soon enough. Okay, next slide. And then finally, we have customer segmentation and personalization. So when we start thinking about the different types of behaviors and patterns, the one thing we know beyond a shadow of a doubt within digital marketing is that consumers really want something personalized. You don't want to be a number. You don't want to be considered. You want to have them send you stuff that is personalized. So if you were to ask a consumer, do you want a personalized dashboard when you log into my website? People would be like, oh, no, I don't need a personalized dashboard. But if you show it to them, they love it. And we know that there's an increase in sales in that direction. And so if you think about it from the perspective of working with your downlines, I mean, we know that there are certain customers that have expectations, and that there's also just different managers too. When we're looking at all the different types of levels of who we're working with, there's different expectations that everybody has. And if we can have it allow us to segment people based on what their needs are and how we know that they respond, it's getting to the point now where it can send out emails and it can send out text messages when we know that somebody's more likely to respond. And that's all, fed back through, when did they open it? Did they actually click through it? If you send me something at 5 o'clock at night when I'm going to pick up my kids from daycare, like, I'm not going to respond to you until the morning. Probably better off sending me something at 10 a.m. But somebody else might be totally different than me, and that might be their time when they're commuting home on a train. And so that's one of the nice things about generative AI, is that it can figure these things out, and you don't have to have a person that's looking at this. The machine is going through and constantly getting all these different variables, and it's figuring out what it wants. Okay, next slide. So here's an example called Bloom Reach. One of the things that it can do is that, in particular with emails, we can scale this up and down with different types of push messages or different types of SMS. There's lots of different types of software companies that can help with this. But one of the things that they know that they can do is that AI can recommend the different types of visuals that they know that people are more likely to respond to, based on various different types of, how they've interacted with the company in the past, what they are more likely to click through on, their age demographics, different types of ways of what we know is like the probabilities of them getting closer to something. It's been able to show better click-through rates based on putting somebody in different segments and customizing the message that gets sent to them. All right, and with that, we're going to be going to the next slide, and I'm going to be passing the baton to Maria.
Hi, everybody. You already figured out that the three of us are very passionate about generative AI and its ability to process vast amounts of data from which you can derive insights, but especially personalized communication and content. And content creation is one of its main advantages. And of course, we need a lot of content in direct selling, whether for direct communication or for social media updates that you do. So, for example, you can use platforms like ChatGPT or Bard or Bing Chat or DALL-E or Adobe's new Firefly for simple tasks, such as to generate text and image content. You can use simple tools like Write GPT to reformulate your text and adapt it to the style of your target audience. You can also use tools like Agent GPT to help you set up your own GPT agent or chatbot for personalized communication and content, for product recommendations, to create personalized emails and marketing materials, as Brooke mentioned, and overall to customize the customer experience. You know that each customer has unique needs and preferences. So generative AI can help you tailor your sales pitches to each individual customer, and you can take into account factors like their purchasing history, their interactions with you, the previous emails that they wrote you, and their previous purchases, which can help you formulate personalized product recommendations, anticipate your customers' needs and wants, which increases their likelihood of then making further purchases. So this personalization is a very important advantage of using basic AI tools or even more advanced automated AI tools, which can lead to increased customer engagement, an improved overall brand image, and increased sales. Now, on the next slide, you can see that it's not only related to content creation, but also it can also help with managing your lead scoring and lead generation. So generative AI algorithms can help you identify potential leads by analyzing various sources of data. The three of us present here today are very passionate about analytics and data, and there's tons of data out there, both internally in your organizations and externally. So social media data, website traffic, customer behavior on your website, purchase history, and more can all be analyzed through generative AI so that you can discover patterns, trends, and relationships that are invisible to the human eye. Even if you are not an experienced data analytics or statistics person, you can simply, for example, copy paste a table into ChatGPT and ask if it can discover any relationships or patterns in your data. So you can start small, even with the lead scoring and identifying potential leads. So once your potential leads have been identified, generative AI can also help with lead scoring, which is basically ranking your potential customers based on their likelihood to convert into actual customers. And here, AI can consider their interactions with your company, their social media behavior, and their previous responses, so that you can predict their potential value to your business. And from here, we go back again to your ability to generate personalized content for them, not only in the form of an adapted message to your customers, but also adapted offers in terms of solutions, product packages, and pricing options. So by personalizing these offers, you can increase your open rates, your click-through rates online, and your conversion rates for your marketing materials. But you also have the opportunity to increase your the likelihood of your leads doing business with your company. And from the lead scoring and lead generation, we move to the next slide, which is related to a very important topic for you in direct selling, which is sales funnel optimization. And you know that an important phase here is related to your ability to identify and segment your leads. And generative AI can help a lot here by considering the different characteristics of your potential leads, their demographics, their online behavior, their past purchases, their interactions, all from your data sets, which can then help you segment them. And again, going back into providing personalized communication and personalized solutions and responses to their needs, which can increase your chances of closing the deal and getting the deal from them. Automation is also a very important aspect that can come with generative AI, because you can automate different tasks within the sales funnel, which will give you more time to focus on the high value activities and on the actual interaction with your customers. For example, you can automate the phase of lead nurturing. You can automate the phase of follow-up. You can send out regular personalized communication to your leads. And these can all be done easily through different CRM systems, which most of them now incorporate some type of AI-based technology. And of course, by having your data fed into an integrated AI system, you can predict, more easily predict customer behavior automatically and know what your customers are more likely to do and what they expect from you. Now, another aspect that I want to emphasize on the next slide, which is very important for the three of us, considering that we focus on analytics and on getting the job done, and on the bottom line is the importance of focusing on your sales team performance, on monitoring and on optimizing their activity. AI, with its capabilities for data processing and pattern recognition, can help you automate this process and can help you easily identify patterns and trends and factors that are successful within your sales techniques, as well as potential phases, potential aspects, potential salespeople who might have potential problems or issues within their activities. So you can also identify potential sales opportunities, such as, for example, a lead showing increased engagement with your company's content, or a current customer showing interest in a new product line, which will allow your sales reps to proactively engage with these leads or customers. You can, again, automate all these tasks of evaluating what is going well, what is going wrong, and anticipating potential negative trends and aspects that could appear. So you could identify a potential problem, such as a decrease in engagement among a certain customer segment, and then easily recommend strategies to address it. So generative AI is a great tool in monitoring and optimizing your sales team performance and in identifying potential aspects that affect your bottom line. Now, I'm handing it over to Mike and to Brooke to talk us through some of the key challenges and some useful tools for generative AI in sales.
Yeah, if I could jump in between here, fantastic stuff so far. And Mike, if you're about to jump into this, then go forth. But a couple of questions that have popped up from Dasha Katalova at USANA, I believe. One, she's asking, I think they're related, what are the relevant security and performance metrics to measure the results from AI? And how can we prepare for AI and the implications around data privacy and data accuracy? And when employees are using generative AI, such as ChatGPT, GPT. I don't know if any of you want to grab that, or Mike, if that's in the flow of where you were about to go.
Yep, that's exactly, yeah. So that's a great segue. So yeah, that's so.
Thank you, Dasha.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So this, everyone's probably like, this is awesome. Where do I sign up? Right. Hold, right. Hold on. You know, let's put the brakes on, right? Because there are some challenges with generative AI. And again, it's all relies on data, right? Garbage in, garbage out. And the importance of data quality and the availability of that data lies in the fact that generative AI tools heavily rely on data to generate accurate and meaningful outputs. So again, poor data quality, bias, or outdated data can lead to inaccurate and obviously misleading results. So to kind of talk about that, so let's talk about the first thing, data quality control. So organizations, they need to implement processes to ensure the accuracy, whether it's capturing that information in a CRM, whether it's capturing it in a web database, right? They have to make sure that it's accurate, it's complete, and it's relevant for the data. So again, going back to my CRM days, we had to capture sometimes. We get caught up in, there's so much information we can gather, right? Gather the information that's important to the outcome of your business, right? So, because what's happening is here, it's not just about accuracy, but remember, the generative AI, it's still a robot, right? And it's trained on the data that you give it. So in order to train the model to be accurate, the data has to be accurate as well. So one of the things, the pitfalls I see in a lot of organizations is like, wow, CRM can capture all this information. Well, what happens is the more information you put in it, it gets lost in the model, and then it's not accurate. So make sure that the data is accurate. And this includes data cleansing, removing duplicates. Duplicates is a huge issue, right? It's just, okay, is it John Smith? Is it Jonathan Smith? Is it the same person, right? So data cleansing and making sure duplicates are not there is part of that cleansing method. Also addressing missing values, which is a huge issue also when it comes to customer relation management, and verifying that the integrity of the data set, especially when using secondary data. Also let's talk about data privacy, right? You have to prioritize that data privacy and secure that the that the information is protected. So, and it comes from a number of different things. One, building that culture, right? Do not share information. Obviously, it's trust 101, but a lot of individuals, right, can sometimes break those rules. So we have to make sure you create some process in place to protect that information, but also implement robust data protection, such as encryption, access controls, compliance with that are relevant to your to regulations such as GDPR. So again, that helps maintain and achieve that customer trust. Also, when we talk about data diversity, right, what does that really mean? Well, that means that if you don't have diverse data, you're creating bias, right, in that model, right? So maybe you're collecting data from one type of population versus another, and it's not representative of your target market. So it is essential to ensure that the training data used for generative AI models is diverse and representative of the target population. So again, you as an organization, you know your client better than anybody else. So when you're training that model, you've got to make sure that that data is accurate in there. And then again, this is an evolution, right? So it's not just something that you can plug in and say, okay, we're done, right? So one of the things that we have to maintain is continuous data monitoring and updating. So the data that's used for the generative AI tools should be regularly monitored and updated to account for changes in customer behavior. So again, our customer behavior changed, meaning that are they looking at different social media tools? Are they responding to different advertisements? Are they reacting to different market trends, such as COVID, right? And again, we have to make sure that we implement any type of tools. We have a process in place that, okay, every month we're updating or reviewing and updating our policies that are in place to make sure that we're keeping up with the trends. And I think that's one of the challenges I see when working with companies. Say, we implemented a great tool. What happened? What happened to your weekly, monthly meetings? What happened to your cadence? Yeah, we kind of got away with that. Well, that's why your model's not working. So I don't know if that answers that question, but that it kind of went right back into some of the challenges here, because right now we're going to go into some of the tools that are available. I know Brooke's going to kind of talk about some of those tools, but just be aware, again, Going back to the top of the hour of what we were talking about it, start with a business problem, right? How are you going to address it? But you almost have to play devil's advocate. You have to think about, do we have process in place? Do we have the tools in place? Do we have the culture in place, right? And again, I always talk about that technology does not define your process. It complements it, right? So you have to make sure you have the non-technical stuff in place before you start implementing tools such as generative AI into the organization.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so and to add on to that a little bit, so there's a couple of other things about data privacy that we can add on about any kind of AI. The first is that healthcare for sure has led the efforts on how to scrub out all PII. They have something in addition before something gets fed into the AI model. They want to make sure that all patient names and any kind of identifying information has been pulled out. There are a number of companies that are working on that right now, but more or less because of HIPAA being around there and being, forcing in their hands, they're doing it. So that technology does exist. And I would encourage many companies to start using that because we don't necessarily know how big the model is going to be. And we don't necessarily know, we don't want to have that information really floating around and getting tossed around. I'm sure customers would be upset about different types of purchases that they've had being told to somebody that they didn't want to or whatever else. The other thing too is that, when you are speaking to companies and software vendors that are using AI, try and find out if they have a walled garden or if they are just using the regular old AI that goes out to everybody. Because Samsung's already gotten in trouble. Their employees were they wanted to have their meetings summarized. It was a top secret, well, about as top secret as you could with their strategies. And they had their meeting summarized, like they fed everything in the ChatGPT, and now all of their trade secrets are in the actual model. So there have been a bunch of issues. Lots of HR companies, lots of HR departments around the globe are trying to figure out how they want to handle it. I know quite a few people, a bunch of my friends that are managers have already used ChatGPT to write employee reviews, which I think is probably along the lines of not being super ethical because they just had to feed a lot of information into the model. So we've got a lot of stuff that we're learning. Every day there's something new about regulating AI, and who knows what's going to happen in 6 months, but I know that's here now. We want to make sure that it's not necessarily fed into it. So with that, some of the tools that we can use for direct selling is ChatGPT. ChatGPT currently has three different versions. There's ChatGPT 3, 3.5, and 4. And each one, it's not like it's like the 4 is the newer model, but what it can do is it's actually what it's like, what the model looks like and how it can deal with stuff. So ChatGPT 4 can handle pictures. It can handle voices. It can handle, like, if you're going to be feeding audio in, it can also handle longer text. So like I am in the market research world. So if I wanted to send in 2 hours of focus group transcripts, it can process that better because it's a different model than ChatGPT 3. You can use the free version of ChatGPT, or you can use the paid version. It goes by tokens. There's lots of other things that it can do while it's going through. It helps you with customer service. It can help you with different types of chatbots. It can also help you with sales training and going through the different types of training material. And then it can analyze the sales data. But again, I would be a little bit more cautious. And when you're speaking with the vendor, find out more about that, because you don't necessarily want to feed your precious secret sauce ingredient, everything, all your trade secrets. You don't necessarily want to feed it into the model for it to be used for somebody else's taking. And then but the most important thing, what I found it really helpful with is, if there's anybody, if you have the same type of anxiety as I do, whenever there's a blank page with the cursor blinking at me, I freak out. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, I need to have something. It's always easier for me to edit. And so one of the things that ChatGPT is really nice for is at least creating the content so that you can edit it. It's not great. There have been, one of the things that it comes across is very sterile. It doesn't tell good stories. I know we're still kind of having fun with it, but it doesn't come off with very colorful language or like anything that has that it's just not very human-like right now. And so we know that it can help you save time and it can help you with improving the messaging, but there's still some issues with that. The other thing we have is Bing. Also, they are, they have their own. They're going to be moving over from a search button to, from a search engine to being able to be an AI. So instead of saying like, tell me how to get to like whatever direction, or tell me about all the different types of retail stores that are around me, you can now have an actual conversation with it, where you can say something along the lines of, give me a recipe that is, that has tomatoes, chicken, and onions, because it's the only thing I have in my house right now. And then it will give you that, and then say, okay, fine. Now find one that was going to take less than 10 minutes to create. And so instead of going through and having to find all that search, the Bing is able to get to the point where it can tell you those. And then the other thing is what we had already mentioned with Yabble, that can feed through and look through all the different types of customer reviews online. It can also go through all of your social media mentions. There's a lot of they have APIs for pretty much everything, so they can pull everything in. Text back AI is also something that you can integrate with your CRM, and it can handle where people are on their customer journey. And then Bloomreach, the same thing. So these are like add-ons to CRMs. And, if you talk to your CRM vendor, they'll be able to tell you a little bit more about where they are. But these are more of like the startups of where we're going to be going. And the big vendors haven't really adopted this type of technology yet, just because that's not their main specialty. But I would imagine that in the next couple of years, they'll be having those.
Yeah, Brooke, if I could interrupt you, we have a tools related question, I think, from Denise Kutogful at MetaFast. There's an AI that can recognize types of food on a plate, apparently, for instance. I mean, are they capable of recognizing other things besides food in that same way, or is that unique?
Definitely, yeah. So, and I'm not sure if this is I think this is interactive. I think we can do something, but if this was like a normal class, I would say, guys, raise your hands and tell me how many people use fantasy football. So, Yahoo's fantasy football, one of the things that they do at the end of each season is they send you a video clip of everybody that was on your fantasy team. And so they are able to, they work with Google. I think it's called Google Lens. That's one of their products. And they say, they give them an output of create a 5-minute video with this player, that player, and it can go through. So it knows, it can go through and look at all of the text images and pull stuff out. And it creates a personalized video for each player, for each fantasy football player.
I wish I'd spoken to you last fall.
And so so we're in a burgeoning area right now of how amazing this can be. But that's one of the reasons why we're starting to see things with makeup. We can see things where people are giving us more color tests and things like that. I get stuff like that all the time with all my retail stuff.
And if I could ask one more while we're pausing here, another security related question, but outside of data privacy, we also need to consider intrusion detection systems to better detect when AI assets have been compromised. Not known that there are a lot of tools out there to detect attacks on AI. Any recommendations from you guys on that?
Yeah, so I think I don't know. I mean, I think it would have to come down. That's more of a cybersecurity question that I'm not particularly sure of. I know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, fair enough. The example that was given is stealing data sets or recreating a model, those kinds of things, which I think you've sort of touched on, that accidentally getting out there and being careful on the front end. But please go on.
Yeah, I know that right now, one of the things about AI and how AI is programmed and making sure that it's not as, it doesn't create as many stereotypes as it has been, because there's quite a lot of bias that's been programmed into different types of AIs, is there are programmers that are going through and looking through these things. So, I mean, it is still software, but because it's its own thing, maybe you might be able to talk about that a little bit more. I mean, the programmers that I work with and the ones that I know work in smaller companies where that's more secured in their own system. So I don't, but the really big ones, I'm not quite sure about.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say, just to add on to that, is what you need to be careful with is basically when you look, especially cybersecurity, what I've noticed is that they'll pick the same company to implement the cybersecurity technology. And I would advise against that. I would actually have a third party come in, a SI, a system integrator that knows other systems, because though that company tool might be really good at their own tool, they may not know the code to protect other tools of other data that's coming in. So even though it's protecting other systems, what we usually do is want to bring in an SI partner, whether it's, and I got to talk about, like such as an IBM or an Accenture or Deloitte, that basically says, well, we understand that tool, but we also understand how the other ones are exposed. And so they can protect against that. So just something to keep in mind is that some of these technology tools, which are very good, sometimes they'll provide what's called their own professional services. And so I would probably look elsewhere to have a third party integrate those professional to implement those that technology, because they might know other systems that are outside of the cybersecurity realm.
Fantastic. Okay. Thanks for that little intrusion. Appreciate that.
Okay, and then we're gonna go, if we can skip to the IBM Watson's screen. I think that's gonna be Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're Gary, just keep me honest. I think we have we got about 9 minutes left here.
Yeah, and let's try to save some for. Well, we've had questions as we go, so continue to help all along. Yeah.
Good thing I'm from Jersey. I can talk fast, so I'll go through these very quickly. So the thing, we talked about some of the challenges and some of the problems that could happen with generative AI. One of the two questions that come up is, is this accurate? And where the heck is this answer coming from, right? Well, that's where tools like IBM and Salesforce come in, where they have the tools to say, okay, we're going to ask the question, but instead of going through millions of data points to answer that question, let's go through what, to a source that we know, and that's our own organization. So what Watson does, it basically, it's a collaboration tool, right? It's, again, a very technical tool that a company's working within their own ecosystem, right? They're not asking the whole public about a question. They're just, whatever company it is, right? They're working with their own connections, their own data files, their own CRM systems, their own models and all flows. And so what Watson does is basically refines the data. It looks at basically AI, right? That's according to their industry and what they're collecting on their customers. It does deeper learning, does visualizations, and also visual recognition. But again, it's keeping it with a container. So next slide, Gary. So if you look at this, right, this is the marriage between a couple of technologies. This is the exciting part, right? ChatGPT, generative AI is really exciting. But when we start to marry the two technologies together, right? If you look at generative AI, right, you ask it a question, right? It's asking millions of data points. And the question's like, hey, is this accurate, right? And a lot of the stuff that, and again, we've all played with ChatGPT. It's just like, wow, this is a pretty good answer, right? There's some areas where it's not so accurate. In fact, I read an article that ChatGPT is only 40% accurate when it comes to math questions. So be careful of anyone taking math tests. Do not use ChatGPT because it's usually wrong, right? Unless 40 is better than what you would score before, right? So the thing is that what it's doing here is it's combining with your ecosystem of data. So it's taking the intelligence of Watson and the question the answer's being generated, and it's getting rid of the data that's not really, that you don't know, trust, or it's not within your ecosystem. So basically it's making it conversational, contextual, and most importantly, trustworthy as well. And so, and I know we're going to get out of time, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So the difference between IBM Watson and Salesforce, and I probably should have worked the other way, is that IBM can look at different systems. So it can look at your ERP systems, it look at your web pages, it could also look at your CRM. Salesforce Einstein can do the same thing, but it only works within the Salesforce ecosystem, meaning that it only works within Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud. So whether it's in your org, right? So every system is controlled within an org, right? If it's within that org, then it can basically combine that data. So instead of going to ChatGPT and say, what makes a great lead? Well, the generative AI combined with Salesforce can provide a couple things. One, predictive lead scoring, right? We used to call them green cards back in the day, but basically a green scoring card, which basically says, okay, this is what good looks like. This, instead of you manually trying to figure out what is good, right? This manual kind of lead scoring basically gets thrown away and looks at predictive lead scoring. And Maria had touched upon this before. Automated email responses, right? I remember as a sales rep, it would take me, it'd take me an investment of time, hours, to kind of come up with, okay, how do I respond to my clients? Going back to the dangers of AI, this is where I think BDRs, with business development reps and sales, these are what we old school used to call telemarketers. This is where I think that AI replaces them, unfortunately, right? The entry-level sales position of the BDR, SDR, telemarketer, where now you don't need that, right? The AI is basically doing that for you. Also, image recognition, right, enables the business to identify and classify images, right? That the structured and unstructured data that we've talked about. And that's what's good about Einstein as well with the ChatGPT, is managing that unstructured and structured data. And then the predictive analytics, right? One of the things that, again, that I like within Einstein that I've used before is what's called NBA, right? Imagine if you had a tool, right? This Einstein tool, this little cartoon character that comes up and says, this is what you need to do. You need to contact the CTO. You need to have another demo. You need to provide a proposal with a 15% discount, because now your probability is gone from 82 to 97%. That's what the Einstein tool does. All right, next we're going to finish up with some best practices. So I'm passing on to Maria to kind of talk about that.
Hi, so I'm not going to go into detail over this slide and the next one. You can see here some statistics that show you that most organizations, most professionals are starting to use and are already using now AI, especially in the area of marketing and advertising. You can see on the next slide that it is especially used to improve different areas of customer experience, from predicting customer behavior and needs, what we talked today, and can be very helpful for direct selling, to looking at the customer journey and improving that. And I'm going to conclude with the next slide, and then we'll move on to Q&A with best practices. And in this context, I want to emphasize something very important in the context of any tools and technologies. Before implementing generative AI, it is important for you to develop a clear strategy and define your very specific objective. Try to be clear on how AI can support your business and sales goals, whether that can be improving your lead generation or personalizing your sales pitch or optimizing your sales funnel. Now, in this context, think big, but start small. Use AI as a tool to help implement your strategy, not as the strategy. And don't try to implement all the AI tools that are out there, or all the tools that you heard your competition is using or your friends are using. Implement tools based on strategic options and try to add them gradually to your existing CRM. Also, remember that the more high quality your data is, and the AI can work with, the more accurate and useful its insights and outputs will be. Finally, keep in mind that you are in the driver's seat. You are supposed to vet all the information that is generated by AI, all the tips and the insights, and you make the final decision. You all heard of generative AI model hallucinations, that it sometimes invents information. So there are still aspects to iron out. Now, the good thing is that there are many tools available out there for pretty much anything you want to make. Moving on to Q&A, I saw a question from Denise regarding image recognition. We now have tools for everything, including integrated in the classical CRM. For example, even for image recognition, we have tools from Salesforce. We have the Vision AI from Google. We have the Amazon recognition. So for any needs you might have, there's an AI tool out there. You just need to use it in a strategic manner. And now moving on to Q&A, I just want to say that The three of us are available to answer your questions, not only now, but also by email. So feel free to ask now or after today, anytime.
Fantastic. This is just a really great discussion, and we're about to go a little over, so I'll just be brief. And I think probably what's on a lot of people's minds is, getting started. And if you think about getting started with thinking specifically about the direct selling channel, all of you have spoken about sales team culture of collaboration, and the skills and knowledge gaps that may need to be closed and addressed as you get started. Any kind of final thoughts on that from one or the three of you? I know that's awfully broad. Sorry to do that to you.
I'll start. One of the things that whenever I've worked on implementation or consulting, everyone kind of sits down and wants to say, okay, teach us what this technology is going to do. And what I do is have a whiteboard. I don't have a computer out, right? So, and I know it sounds a little maybe elementary, but really outline your entire process from A to Z, right? From when that person, when that organization is interested in your product, right? To when that person or organization becomes a client, right? Then identify all the technologies that are involved in managing that process, from your web databases, from your CRM, from your back office and ERP, and then think about what can be automated, right? That is the thing that I think about. What is a task that's taken me the most, right? So for instance, follow-up emails. When I was a salesperson, that was actually, I'd forget, right? And then when I remembered, I was like, gosh, I don't know if I want to send I don't have time to send these messages out. So then think about the tasks that can be automated. And I think that's the first start, right? When think about generative AI from a sales process perspective, think about what are some time that you can give back to your people, right? To make them more productive. And so I think that's the first stretch. And then you're going to start kind of, what's going to happen is that when you have a problem, you answer that problem, and then more questions become. And that's what's great about data and analytics, is that more questions are progressing, right? And when more questions are progressing, that means you're identifying other challenges that that this can help out with. But I'd say start small and think about what are some of the things within your process that can be automated first, and then kind of build from there.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe on that note, I'll say, Maria and Brooke and Mike, thank you very much. This has been a fantastic conversation, and great to learn from the three of you. We appreciate not only the conversation today, but that you guys are with us on this fellow's journey, and speak and bring so much value into the direct selling channel. So thank you for that. Thank you for your expertise and sharing and engaging with us on that. And the conversation will continue, no doubt. As I alluded to earlier, this is going to be an important discussion when we're all together in Scottsdale for DSA Engage. Encourage you all to sign up and join us there. I know Erin King is going to be a featured keynote there, and that she'll talk about this topic as well. So really look forward to having you all join us. And I want to thank, and again, encourage you to be part of the 50th anniversary celebration with the SEF. I thank our friends at Gen Con Innovation for their support of this video webinar series, but also their great support in the 50th anniversary celebration. Great things to come there, and appreciate their support, and our friends at PayQuicker and many others to come. So with that, friends, we had a great crowd. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in Scottsdale.